Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a big one. Can a brand truly escape its past? And we're going to be using the wild ride of Abercrombie and Fitch's history,
right,
to kind of figure that out.
Okay.
And we're going straight from the source, straight from the Wikipedia page.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's it is fascinating to look at a company that outfitted Teddy Roosevelt and then ended up
embroiled in controversy.
Embroiled in controversy for this whole cool kids only attitude.
Yeah. Talk about a brand identity crisis.
Right.
We're going all the way back to 1892.
Okay.
When David T. Abercrombie founded this elite sporting goods store in New York City.
Yeah.
Which is so different from
wow.
the dimly lit, music blaring storefronts we think of today.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't step into that original store and find, hoodies with logos on them.
Right.
It was high-end shotguns, fishing rods, tents, this was the era of exploration and big game hunting.
Yeah.
And they were catering to a very different clientele.
Yeah, like adventurers like Teddy Roosevelt, who actually used A&F gear on his safari. They even outfitted Admiral Byrd's Antarctic expedition.
No, it's wild, right?
Yeah, it is. This brand was once synonymous with these rugged historical figures.
Right, and it makes you think about brands and their legacy, right?
Yeah.
They went from outfitting presidents and explorers to teens known for a very different type of exploration.
And that shift did not happen overnight.
Right.
In the 1970s, A&F was facing some headwinds.
Yeah.
They were struggling to compete with those lower price rivals.
Right.
Filed for bankruptcy.
Wow.
And closed their flagship NYC store. It's almost like they lost their compass for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reminder that even iconic brands aren't invincible. They have to adapt with changing times and tastes.
Right.
And they really struggled with that at that point.
Yeah, but you know what they say? When one door closes, another one opens.
Right.
In 1978, Oshman's Sporting Goods bought A&F and attempted to, keep it going. They were focusing on mail-order hunting wear and novelty items.
Okay. So they were just trying to keep the brand alive.
Yeah.
It wasn't until 1988 when the Limited, which later became L-Brands, took over, that things really began to change.
Okay.
And that marked the beginning of the transformation into this, teen retail giant that we know today.
And that's when Mike Jeffries came in, the CEO, who really pushed them into that teen market in the 1990s. He launched Abercrombie Kids and Hollister Co. And really solidified their hold on that youth demographic.
Totally. Jeffries had a vision, a clear vision for the brand.
Yeah.
To make it synonymous with teen aspiration,
Right.
And that very specific all-American image.
Right.
He coined casual luxury, which was just brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Because it captured their whole strategy, high-quality materials,
Right.
near luxury prices and marketing to create this sense of exclusivity and desirability.
It's so interesting how they went from outfitting real-life adventurers to then marketing, a lifestyle of aspirational adventure to teenagers.
Absolutely. It was tapping into that desire to belong, to be cool, to be seen, to be desirable.
Right, yeah.
Think about those iconic black and white ads shot by Bruce Weber.
Oh, yeah?
The dimly lit stores, the brand representatives.
Right.
And, of course, the high price tags.
Yeah.
It all contributed to this mystique, this allure of the brand.
Yeah, it really felt like you were stepping into another world when you walked into an A&F store. That mix of, the cologne, the loud music, the brand reps.
Totally.
Yeah. But as we know, this strategy, although it was successful for a while, led to major controversies.
Yeah, I mean, the very things that made them successful, the exclusivity, the focus on a very specific look, ultimately backfired as society kind of shifted towards, inclusivity and diversity.
Right. It's almost like they went too far in trying to cultivate this image.
Yeah.
And alienated a large portion of their potential customer base.
Right, exactly. And those missteps had real consequences,
Yeah.
Like the T-shirt controversies, the lawsuits alleging discriminatory hiring practices.
Right.
And of course, Jeffrey's quote about only wanting cool kids to wear his clothes.
Right.
It really painted this picture of a brand that was out of touch and insensitive.
It's a classic example of how a brand's actions and messaging can have such an impact.
Yeah.
Positive and negative.
Right.
And for A&F, the negative eventually outweighed the positive.
Yeah.
Man, those early 2000s T-shirt designs from A&F have aged about as well as a carton of milk left out in the sun.
I know, right? It's like,
What were they thinking?
it makes you wonder.
Some of those slogans were so blatantly offensive. Like, how did they even make it past the drawing board?
Yeah, like the two Wongs can make it white.
What? Yeah.
Or the it's all relative in West Virginia.
It just seemed like they were trying so hard to be like edgy and provocative,
Right.
that they just totally missed the mark on what's actually funny.
Totally.
And what's just offensive.
Yeah, it's a prime example of how humor can be so subjective.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And how brands really need to think about cultural sensitivities when they have a diverse audience.
Right.
Like a joke to one person can be deeply offensive to another.
And A&F learned that the hard way. Like those T-shirt controversies sparked outrage, boycotts, and really damaged their reputation.
For sure. It's a reminder that even if a brand is trying to project a certain image,
Right.
their actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
Consumers are savvy, and they can see right through inauthenticity. Like if you're promoting inclusivity but putting out a T-shirt that mocks a certain group,
Totally.
it undermines the whole message.
Yeah. And it wasn't just the T-shirts. Like, they also faced legal battles over their hiring practices. Like the Gonzalez v. Abercrombie & Fitch lawsuit in 2004
Right.
really exposed some of those problems with their look policy.
Right. Yeah, that lawsuit was a pivotal moment for them.
Yeah.
You know, it alleged that they were discriminating against minorities and women in hiring for like sales and management positions,
Right.
essentially favoring those who fit their, you know, brand aesthetic.
So the look policy that was like so central to their image ended up being their downfall.
Yeah, in a way it did. The lawsuit forced them to confront that their obsession with a certain look was discriminatory and exclusionary.
Right.
And it wasn't just unfair to employees, it also hurt their business.
Right.
By alienating customers who didn't fit that mold.
Oh, the irony. They were so focused on cool kids that they ended up being the uncool ones.
Yeah, totally. It's a classic example of how a brand can get trapped by their own image.
Right.
They built their whole identity around exclusivity and aspiration.
Right.
But as society changed, those values started to feel outdated and frankly offensive.
Yeah. And the price tag for those missteps was pretty steep.
Right.
A $40 million settlement.
Yeah.
And a commitment to like overhaul their hiring.
Yeah.
And their promotion policies.
Yeah, that's right. The lawsuit forced them to take a look at their own internal biases and make real changes to create a more inclusive and equitable workplace.
Right.
It was a wake-up call for the company and for the whole industry.
But the legal issues didn't stop there.
Right.
There was also the case involving that Muslim woman who was fired for wearing a hijab.
Right. And that case, which went all the way to the Supreme Court,
Wow.
highlighted another aspect of inclusivity, right? Like religious accommodation.
Right.
The court ruled in favor of the employee.
Okay.
Sending a clear message that companies cannot discriminate against employees based on their religious belief.
Again, their adherence to this look was creating more problems than it was solving.
Yeah.
It was alienating employees.
Yeah.
Sparking lawsuits. Damaging their image.
It really was.
You'd think they would have gotten the message by then.
You would think so, but it wasn't just about the look.
Right.
It was about the culture of exclusivity.
Right.
And to change that, they needed a fundamental shift in their thinking.
So how did they respond? Did they even try to change?
Well, in 2017, Fran Horowitz took over as CEO and started steering the brand in a new direction.
Yep.
One focused on inclusivity and diversity.
Wow, that's a big change from the cool kids only era.
Yeah.
What did that look like in practice? Did they like ditch the look policy, tone down the marketing, start offering more size-inclusive options?
They did all of that and more.
Wow.
They toned down the sexualized ads,
Yeah.
stopped calling their staff models, and started calling them brand representatives.
Okay.
And made a conscious effort to show a wider range of body types and ethnicities.
So it sounds like they were finally starting to get it, but was it enough? Were people ready to like forgive and forget?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Can a brand that was so associated with exclusivity
Yeah.
really convince people they've changed?
Right. And how did all of this impact their bottom line? Did these changes resonate with consumers?
Well, that's where things get even more complicated.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were facing a whole new set of challenges in this ever-evolving retail landscape.
Yeah.
Like the rise of fast fashion and the growing popularity of online shopping.
It's like they were trying to navigate a whole new world with their old playbook no longer apply.
Right. They had to figure out how to appeal to a new generation of consumers who were more diverse, more socially conscious, and more demanding than ever before.
It's crazy how much the retail landscape has changed, even in like the last 10 years.
I know, right?
Like, remember when everyone thought brick and mortar stores were going extinct?
Yeah, it was the age of Amazon.
Right.
Everything was going digital.
Yeah.
Traditional retailers were scrambling.
And A&F was right in the thick of it.
Right.
Trying to reinvent themselves while dealing with, like, online shopping and fast fashion.
Yeah, talk about a challenge.
So how they approached that whole online shopping thing? Did they just try to, like, replicate the in-store experience online?
Well, they had to create a strong online presence.
Right.
But they also had to think about, you know, how to translate that brand identity, like the aspiration, the casual luxury into a digital experience.
Yeah, it's interesting how you even create that feeling online, you know?
Right.
Like in a store, you've got the music, the lighting, the scents, the brand reps. It's all very sensory.
Totally.
But online, it's, you know, visuals and words.
Exactly. They had to capture the essence of the brand through, like, photography, product descriptions, even just the design and functionality of their website.
Did they try any, like, out-of-the-box strategies? Like, remember they were exploring opening stores on college campuses?
Yeah, that was an interesting move, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get closer to their demographic. Create more of a community feel. Maybe even recapture some of that exclusive club vibe.
Yeah.
But in a more modern way.
It seems like they were constantly experimenting, trying to find what worked in this new landscape.
Yeah.
But did they ever actually solve the puzzle?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is they're still figuring it out. The retail world is always evolving. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. What worked yesterday might not work today, and what works today might be gone tomorrow.
It's like they're running a marathon that never ends.
Exactly. And the key in that kind of environment is adaptability. Being able to read the trends, anticipate the changes, pivot quickly.
So what does all this mean? What's the takeaway from our deep dive into Abercrombie and Fitch?
Well, I think it's a story about more than just clothes and marketing. It's a story about brand evolution, the challenges of staying relevant in a constantly changing world.
And it's a reminder that even iconic brands can stumble and fall. But it's also a story about resilience. Like the ability to learn from your mistakes and adapt.
Absolutely. And it's a story that's still being written. You know, we don't know what the next chapter holds for A&F. But it'll be fascinating to watch them evolve and navigate this crazy world.
So for you listening, here's something to consider. What brands do you see successfully navigating this constantly shifting world? And what can we learn from their strategies, their successes, and even their failures?
Because in a world where consumers have more choices than ever, the brands that survive are the ones that adapt, evolve, and connect with their audiences in a really authentic way.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Abercrombie and Fitch.
Of course.
It's been a fascinating journey, and we can't wait to see where it goes next.